Welcome back. I'm now joined by William Edwards from our business desk. Hello again, William. So we're starting in Japan, where the IMF is holding one of its big biannual meetings.
Yep, and they have been calling on Europe and the US to do more to get their finances in order. Now, with the Eurozone debt crisis, the IMF is saying that coordinated action needs to be happening more quickly. It's been a bit haphazard. Things have just been responded to rather than planned out thus far. But they do say that Greece should have 2 more years to meet its targets. Earlier, we spoke to Justin McCurry, France 24's Tokyo correspondent, and he told us a bit more about what Christine Lagarde had to say.
Christine Lagarde has, given the fact that she's been speaking publicly in Tokyo this morning, been pretty forthright in her criticisms of both the Eurozone and the US and the policy deadlock there that she says is holding up efforts to sort their economies out. But as you say, in terms of Greece, she is very much in favour of the idea of giving it this 2-year extension. And the reason Lagarde gave for that is she said, rather than, in her words, front load these numerical targets on Greece, it's far better to give Greece the time to put those reforms and those economic policies in place and give them time to take effect rather than go for these numerical targets. So a slightly mixed message from Christine Lagarde, but certainly very much concerned about what she called this sort of cloud of uncertainty, and that uncertainty and action have been the real buzzwords of the IMF meeting this week, but they're certainly very critical of what she sees as policy deadlock affecting and slowing down prospects for growth in the global economy.
And meanwhile, Japan itself has been rather in the spotlight, with that territorial dispute between Japan and China somewhat overshadowing that meeting, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Along with uncertainty, this is the other cloud that's hanging over the IMF and World Bank meetings in Tokyo this week. What's happened in the last 24 hours is that the Chinese have refused to send their finance minister, the head of the Chinese central bank, the several state-owned Chinese banks have also failed to send their top representatives. They have all sent deputies, but I don't think there's any doubt that this is a snub. The reason behind the snub, of course, is this prolonged dispute between Japan and China over ownership of the Senkakus, this little group of islands in the East China Sea. And Lagarde herself called for both sides to get around the negotiating table and come to some sort of agreement on this. But my inclination is that sorting out the Senkaku problem will be more difficult than solving the EU debt crisis.
Now, Standard & Poor's, the rating agency, it's dealt Spain another blow.
Yes, it has again been downgraded for the 3rd time this year by Standard & Poor's to BBB-. What that means is that it's just one step above junk rating, according to Standard & Poor's. They say there are additional doubts about how effective the Eurozone's latest bailout fund will be if Spain needs to call on it.
And of course, all of this is having an effect on the markets.
Yes, that hasn't exactly filled the markets with confidence this session. Let's take a look at how things are trading in Asia. And in fact, if you were watching earlier, you'll remember that the Hang Seng was in positive territory. Even that has been, succumbed to the bad news from Spain. And it follows on across the board from a negative session in the US, brought about by profit warnings from companies including Chevron and Alcoa.
OK, next, investors are reacting to news that a merger between BAE Systems and EADS has been called off. The defence giants announced on Wednesday that the deal can't go ahead because of reservations from some of the governments involved.
The BAE-EADS merger never even got off the ground. The British and European aerospace firms have thrown in the towel over creating what could have been the largest civil and defence contractor in the world. With London, Paris and Berlin all wanting a say in the matter, political compromise was too hard to reach.
Our view is that for this company as a merged entity to have been successful, it would have needed to be able to operate as a commercial company free of undue control or influence by any single government.
Germany and France exert control over EADS, whereas Britain holds a veto over what BAE can do. And each government had its own conditions for the €36 billion merger to go ahead. Berlin has national elections on the horizon, and concerns over jobs and a loss of influence were running high, notably that the new firm's civil operations would move to France and its defence work to Britain.
What really brings home to us is how difficult it is to get agreement between governments in an area such as national security. So this doesn't bode well for the future. If European industry does need to consolidate, if we do have to join up, work together more closely than in the past.
As the fallout from the merger's collapse settles, London, Paris and Berlin are all playing the blame game as to who's at fault, while EADS pointed the finger squarely at Germany. And the dream of a European firm to rival the almighty US Boeing is set to remain just that.
And how did that news affect the company's share prices?
Well, let's have a look. EADS was actually up quite considerably on the move. At 5.29%, you can see there at the end of Wednesday's trading. A big jump, but it's still 7% below its value before talk of a merger came about. And BAE Systems, on the other hand, down 1.36%. Perhaps investors there worried about the company's prospects on its own without a merger. EADS may be seen as a stronger player on its own and better off sticking more to civilian projects than defence.
Okay, now there's been a change at the top of the global PC industry.
According to Gartner, at least, the research firm Hewlett-Packard has been knocked off the top spot by Lenovo. Now, Lenovo are a Chinese company who a few years back bought up IBM's PC business, so they now make ThinkPads, a famous laptop brand, and, well, they seem to be doing rather well. Hewlett-Packard, on the other hand, of course, have been the top player up until now, but they have seen falling sales and a bit of a difficulty in the strategy department. They've been suggesting doing the same thing as IBM, selling off its PC division, focusing more on services than hardware, but no decision on that front has been taken as yet. It comes in the context of a global fall in PC sales for the first time since 2001 this year. That's been predicted at least. There is one company, IDC, they still put Hewlett-Packard ahead, but it's only by 0.5%, so it looks like it might not last for long even there.
Okay, now we're heading to the UK. Cambridge University is breaking an 800-year track record and finally borrowing on the markets.
Yes, they are following governments by borrowing on the markets 435 million through a 40-year security bond, that is. And really breaking that track record. They've never borrowed before. They say they don't really need to. They do have the cash, but they want to take advantage of interest rates which are hovering around record lows at the moment, so they thought they'd get in there. It's going to be used for general educational purposes. What's quite interesting is that Moody's have given them a credit rating since they're borrowing on the bond markets, and actually it's better than that of the UK government. They're both AAA, but the UK is on a negative outlook, so they're saying it could go down. Cambridge, on the other hand, is stable. I suppose it has been there 800 years, which is longer than the United Kingdom itself, so they've got some staying power.
Wow, I didn't even know a university could do that sort of thing. Right, we're going to end with Facebook. Anyone who uses it knows all about that like button, and there are some plans to add a want button. What's that about then?
That's what it's being called, and it's basically saying what you would like to buy. They're calling it collections. It's being tested at the moment, the idea of this want button. What it's all about is competing with the latest upstart, which is Pinterest. I don't know if you've heard of that. What it is if you see something online, anything, be it a product or a restaurant, something like that, be it shoes, dresses, or whatever, it is largely popular with women, actually. You can put them online, show your friends what you're interested in, what you'd like, and sometimes if you're feeling flush, buy some of these products. Facebook obviously keen to get in on that action, especially if it involves people buying stuff through their website. So you could, next to the like button, have a want button in the near future. Like I said, it's under testing at the moment.
I hear they can scan through your messages and see if you've used any brand names, and that way they know what you want to buy.
It's
scary.
Dangerous stuff in some ways.
Thank you very much, William, and thank you for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.